Hey everybody, Jonathan Crow, Director of Community at NinjaOne here, and welcome back to another live stream. We had two this week. Lucky you all, lucky us for getting ready to do this. Today I'm joined by two awesome members of the product management team. We've got Dan Myers and Greg Thomas, and they have been working together hand in hand, Batman and Robin style. I'll let you decide who's who, to bring you guys new updates to OS deployment. Now, this is something that rolled out not too long ago and was a super active stream. There was a lot of discussion around it. Definitely a welcome addition to NinjaOne's capabilities. A lot of feedback on it too, as in true Ninja way. We release things and then continue to build on them based off of feedback from you all. You tell us what is awesome, what you wish could be better, what you wish could be added, and then we go back and Dan and Greg make that happen. So OS deployment released with 13.0. There's some updates to it, and so one of these things that that we heard was, and I'll let you guys explain it better than I can. But basically, there's not just one way to deploy things, right? There's lots of deployment use cases, and some of those cases require more flexibility. They require some more complex workflows. They require multiple reboots in cases, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about today, showing examples of new capabilities provided with OS deployment that's going to make it more robust and more able to handle different deployment scenarios you're gonna want to throw at it. So, Dan, Greg, how'd I do? Did that sum up things pretty well? Anything you guys want to add before we get into actually showing and telling?
No, I mean, that is exactly the case. You're right. Iterative development is a staple here at Ninja. We want to get things to you as fast as we can, and then continue to iterate. So really excited to kind of give the whole story and then maybe even a little future peek. You know me, I like
Nice.
to give the future peeks.
Awesome. And why don't before we dive into, thank you everybody for joining. Feel free. We're always curious. Let us know where you're viewing from. Let us know if you're actively using OS deployment. And as always, don't wait until the end for question time. Interrupt us. Be active in the chat. Let us know what you want to see more of. If you have questions, what Dan or Greg are talking about or showing, that's what we're here for. Happy to answer. Okay. So Dan, you're primarily involved with building NinjaOne's unified backup. Greg, your experience has been more on the vulnerability management side, and yet here you guys both are talking about OS deployment. What's relevant for the audience, I guess, to know, like what brought you both like into this world? How does OS deployment fit within like the larger Ninja, stack? I guess.
Well, I'm happy to take that one. I've been doing operating system deployment for decades. I actually, it's like one of my favorite things to do. When I was a young technician doing like service desk and tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 stuff, like operating system deployment was one of those areas where I could really kind of express like customization. I could build scripts. I could do some really cool stuff and automate a lot. And that just kind of carried through my career. It's kind of one of those things I've always enjoyed. So I've stayed close to it, and it's fun for me.
I thought you were going to say like back when you were a young boy, you've always dreamed. You had a dream.
Hey, you want to hear something funny? We had somebody on one of our teams tell me that I look like Ed Harris yesterday. And I pulled up Ed Harris. I had to look to see who he is. Man, he's old. He's got a lot of wrinkles. So yeah,
you look like a young, charming Ed Harris. Yeah.
And on the other side, Jonathan, it fit naturally for me to assist in this, as even though backup, it needs to be completely separated from operating system deployment, right? Backup is trying to put a machine exactly back, a clone of it, exactly where it left, doing it its exact role. And OS deployment is about imaging and creating generalized templates that can be reused over and over. But they do require a bootable media so that you can get it stood up on your Pixie server or run from a USB drive. So we have that experience in the backup team of creating bootable media running from a specialized pre-Windows boot environment. I like to say that Myself and Greg combined have over 35 years of experience in the imaging space, but I never tell anyone the split. But that is the story of how this unlikely duo has created music.
I love it. Well, let's take a look at your latest symphony. Let's talk about the latest updates to OS deployment, and
Yeah,
maybe to ground things too. And here I'll go over to. Oh yeah, let's pull up your screen.
cool.
But yeah, bring us up to speed with depending on, some folks may already be actively utilizing OS deployment in its original iteration. Curious to hear that in the chat. But I guess, like, is there anything else before you dive into the updates that you want to kind of level set for the folks who haven't tried this out at all yet?
Yeah. I actually want to kind of start us a bit fresh today and give a full comprehensive look at the entirety of the package. We can skim through some of the areas, but I think it's important to get the foundation because when you think of an imaging product, we have traditionally thought of things like um, SCCM, WDS. Some people use third-party applications that their sole job is to be a deployment and imaging server. Um, and that can be powerful, but it also means it's separate from your stack. You must maintain it separately. And so the reason I want to start over a little bit is coming from some of those products needs a bit of a mind shift change. And if you go directly into it, it's a little difficult to it can be challenging to get, but I know you all are smart cookies, so we're going to figure this out together. I want you to know, first of all, let's tell them the price up front, Jonathan. It's free. It's free with NinjaOne, so free is always great. Everyone has access to this today from administration library and coming down here into the NinjaOne operating system deployment tool. What that does, okay, this little window that I'm dancing brings you an executable here that you can run on your Windows machine. This is used to create bootable media for your image deployment mechanism, right? We are always recommending that you capture an image, a virtual machine. So it's going to be quite common for you to create as an ISO, load up a virtual machine of Windows 11, get it configured to your heart's content, and get it captured here. But when you're ready, we can also provision that as a WIM to go take to your own Pixie server that you have already, or bring it in on a USB drive so you can plug it into a couple of laptops here in the depot. Now, once you've done that, I've just created a virtual machine very quickly that can get us up and running, right? You'll be capable of capturing the Windows image here. You're going to be storing this on a network share. So basically what you'll do, and you can tell of how awake I am if I can do this and talk at the same time. Hey, not too bad. But you can supply a bit of a friendly name here. We'll call this the Win 11 May 26. We'll give it a partition. I don't have anything yet because this isn't an imaged Windows machine, but that C drive would pop right up here. And you could go ahead and say where you want to share and store this image. That's the capture part, right? And now you've already done your generalizing. You've installed some of your baseline applications. We're going to talk about that, the strategy of when and where you deploy your applications, but you've got a good baseline, okay? Then comes the deployment part. All right. So all we need to be focused on is connecting to that network share, providing that image that we've already taken. We give you some options here. The most important one and the crux of why this tool exists is we want to get this agent into Ninja as fast as possible. Okay. So we want to drop in a NinjaOne installer right away. We also allow you to bring a provisioning package and an unattended answer file. This is great for just throwing on a quick user if you want. But really what or stepping through some of those Windows security and privacy settings, right? So that you can low touch these devices here, right? So I always like to just go ahead and provisioning package, and unattended. We could do that if we needed it. And we're off and going to the races here. Now, while that's just going, I want to talk more about the mindset of what we discussed. The goal is to get this into Ninja as fast as possible. Now, I said you could capture an image and put as much on it as you want. Ideally, we want to flip the script on what most people have done with their imaging. Typically in imaging, you're putting everything in the kitchen sink in there. And these programs needed to be able to provide you everything in the kitchen sink to deploy, because they didn't have an RMM and an endpoint management platform attached to their product, right? They needed to provide all of that information to create complex task sequences to get these machines up to spec, right? You would have dedicated teams and individuals working to create specialized, unique organization, customizations in SCCM and WDS. Our goal is to get this into Ninja so that we can, this is how we phrase this, let Ninja be Ninja, okay? Ninja, we want to be the task sequence here. We want it to be the powerhouse to take care of what we need here. So I want to show you how we would approach this here, all right? Now, the scheduled automations is going to be our key here. And remember that we've got a template here that already here. Remember that our scheduled automations have a run once immediately scheduling option. Okay. The ability to deploy your software and perform your task sequence inside of Ninja has a few really powerful advantages. Why deploy Chrome and package it into your image file? And then Chrome has a 0-day vulnerability, and you need to go open that image up, repackage Chrome, and put it back in. Okay. Why not let Ninja handle that, right? Why deploy Chrome there when you could deploy it here? Now, Chrome's an easy one, right? But any application that you custom install on your deployment server, it's highly likely that you may have a PowerShell script or a software installation script that handles that. And now you're keeping that script in two different places. You're keeping it in Ninja and you're keeping it in your deployment tool. We've got configuration drift capabilities here. And so what we believe the right approach to this is creating as thin and light of an image as possible and centralizing your automations and your software deployments and your configurations into Ninja. So taking a look at what you could possibly do here, right? This is just an example that we have in our demo environment. Lot of options here, but I want to go over a couple key ones, right? As soon as this machine checks in, you've given it the NinjaOne installer to go directly to a specific area. It's going to start that patch scan. It's going to enable BitLocker. When it's ready, it's going to perform a reboot, a native Windows reboot. And when it reboots, this is key. This is what's new in 13, right? The ability to natively reboot and keep your scheduled automations going. Then it can continue down its role, right? And you could add in these reboots as part of your task sequence for as much as you need, right? And this is what was missing of making this a true powerhouse. And remembering that, of course, you can create notification channels depending on what you're interested in. But, really, at the end, how about we apply all the Windows updates and reboot one last time? This gives a lot of clear consolidation and centralized management. Your patches are applying based on their approval. That is in NinjaOne. Your software is getting deployed per the policy of machines that should be getting whatever policy they're associated to, and your configurations are standardized. There's a couple ways you could do this. I'll pause for a moment, in just a moment here, but you could do this a couple of ways, right? You could drop this in directly to your standard workstation policy that manages all your clients, right? If Chrome's already installed, It's not going to go install Chrome again, right? Might update it actually, right? Or you could choose to maybe put this in a sub policy, right? Each of you are going to have sort of your own flavors of how you've been setting up your policy trees. But that's the whole crux of what OS deployment is, and why I say it's a little bit it's new age, so to speak, right? It's the cleaner way of doing things in a modern, endpoint management environment. So I want to pause there, right, and see what questions we have in the chat, and maybe see what we can go over here.
Thanks, Dan. I did want to call this out from Noah. Noah, thanks so much for being on this and sharing this. This is music to our ears, obviously. He got this functional recently, allowed him to kill off SCCM. That's awesome, Noah. And then a little bit more praise too. Thank you so much for sharing this. These comments are awesome. We obviously love to hear them. And we also like to hear about like what we'd be doing better or more on too, because we constantly want to be earning your guys' appreciation and your business and everything. But let's use that for call to questions for everybody who's watching online now. If you are watching a recording of this, if you came to it after the fact, you can always leave a question in the comments, and we do try to respond to those as quickly as we can. But I guess when it comes to the deployment, I'm curious specifically with the run once immediately, Dan. Like this is something that's come up. Robert, I see you're in the chat per usual. Good to see you. Awesome that we'll see you on Sunday. Robert's helped to address this pretty recently with some of the other users. A little bit of confusion about run once immediately, or whether it does keep track of basically keep a history of like it has run on this machine before. So I don't know if that's something, Dan or Greg, that you've seen people have some questions or a little confusion around. Anything worth clarifying there, I guess, how that works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does absolutely make sense. I personally might need to familiarize myself a little more and get a more cohesive answer. And I could certainly look at doing that very quickly. I believe, I don't have enough information to answer that, but I will get it for you while we're in the process of the webinar.
I will say one other model that folks use for this, right? You can drop it right into your policy, like Dan showed. Just be careful when you first drop that in, because everything's going to want to run it once immediately. But I've also seen other folks do, and again, it's a preference thing. They will create a unique organization or a unique location that's essentially their build scenario, their deployment scenario, and everything they deploy will go to that location. It will use its own policy. And it's very effective because it allows them to work through those things without worrying about touching anything else. And then when they're ready to move it to some other organization, they can drag and drop it move it wherever they want to. That's another scenario I've seen people do to kind of just add that extra layer of, am I safe here? Nobody wants to reboot a bunch of machines.
No, exactly.
One other thing that I would love to kind of double down on what Dan said is, as you look at that automation sequence, right? You can add your own custom automations there. There's a lot of automations in the Ninja script template library. And they're really fantastic for this. Like all those things where you're stripping out the garbage that Microsoft puts in from the store, where you're, removing the stuff from the toolbar, changing wallpaper. Like there's built-in tool sets for this. You don't have to script a lot of that stuff that you kind of had to in the past. From a reboot perspective, one of the most common places where folks need this, like really need it in an OS deployment scenario, is when you're installing those security tools, right? Your device images, it gets the Ninja agent, it comes online. What's the first thing you want to do, right? You want to make sure that device is secure because it's on the network before you do anything else. So you're putting your AV on there, you're putting your EDR or whatever, security tooling you have there. And most of those require a kernel driver. And because they require a kernel driver, they require a reboot. So it's very common to install something like that and immediately fire a reboot and then kind of get into the rest of your sequence. I think that's where probably most of you will dip your toes into the water on this. Beyond that, this is really exciting to me. I think it's one of those building blocks in Ninja that everybody isn't really starting to see the value until you start kicking the tires on it. This is not just an OS deployment thing, right? Like if you say you built a bundle of steps that you want to troubleshoot your patches with, right? And every time you have a patch cycle run and you have like 1% of your devices fail and you've got to go in and manually touch those. Well, couldn't you automate that? Couldn't you automate that sequence of I'm going to try this, this, and this, and then maybe a nuclear option where I wipe the software distribution folder and reboot? Like there's all sorts of things you can do here, and I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for it. So I'll step off my soapbox here. I get really excited about this stuff, but yeah. I think it is a core building block for us.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for that, Greg. And I think it probably speaks to future state, kind of what we're building towards and everything. Dan, you kind of hinted at that at the beginning. I guess I'm also kind of buying time. If anyone has any specific questions about what Dan showed, what Greg was talking about, any questions on how to get access to this, do what Greg suggested, which is start kicking the tires and start putting this to use. Kind of, I guess, last call for questions. And then also, if you're a member of the Discord, of course, you can jump in the chat there and you'll have access to Ninja staff, but also a ton of additional fellow NinjaOne users who are awesome and more than happy to help out. Some of whose names are here in the chat. Cool. But with that, I guess,
I've got the answer.
Okay.
It will never rerun again, ever. Even if you add something to the chain, okay, you would have to create an entirely new scheduled automation and with something completely different. It runs once immediately when you save the policy or when it becomes active in the policy, right? So there's some consideration, right? Like that might be something that we want to be careful with and create an onboarding policy or start baking it into a new policy so that you could absolutely use this as a bit of a desired state configuration, right? For new and existing agents. Okay, that's what this sort of gets us going towards, which is really powerful, right? But jobs are tracked and they're stored agent side. I love all my fellow product managers. They bailed me out on that one. So yeah, and lastly, I will say, because I love to tease the future. Some of the next things that we're looking at doing, okay, because this is just the beginning, and because this is a free product, we are sitting back and watching the market, watching you, our customers, and seeing what we need, right? But we have some ideas that we feel are fairly safe to share, even though I can't give you an estimated date. I want to give you the ability to save presets, right? Get closer to zero touch, as low touch as possible, right? I don't want you to have to connect to that network share each time and then select each images, right? A little tough right now today. And then we also look at maybe perhaps, this one was a little simple. We feel a little silly, but like just automatically reboot when it's done instead of, having you go ahead and actually, Jonathan, you come back to me here. On my screen, we're done. Our machine has been deployed and it's ready for me to reboot, right? So just in the meantime of while we were doing this, we were able to have a machine deployed, right? It's under 30 minutes. Okay. That's including me being a windbag, Greg a little. So, I mean, this tool will help save time and it will help standardize for you, right? So thanks, Jonathan. But yeah, so some presets, some automatic, just a little bit of polish, and that's probably where I can leave it right now. We got lots of big ideas, but we have to make sure that it makes sense. Really, it's about throwing up a softball in the air for Ninja to hit a home run with.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys. Really appreciate your time as always. Thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. You know where to find us. You can find us, put comments here. We'll respond. Reach out to us on Discord. Lots of amazing active conversations there. And if you're interested in getting involved in early access and beta programs, you can find out how to do that there too by pinging the community team or talking to your account manager is probably the best way to do it. But yeah, very cool. Always love to have you guys on to show what's new, especially when it's something that people can gain access to immediately. It's free, it's involved. Like, make use of this stuff. Try it out. Poke around. Ask us questions. Let us know what you want to see more of. Really cool stuff, guys. Really appreciate you. And we'll have you on again soon. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.